foul tarnished, in search of the Elden Ring.
My pants were certainly foul and tarnished after seeing this trailer. In this video I will be going through the Elden Ring gameplay trailer that was released a couple of days ago in the Summer Game Fest, and share my thoughts about all the new info we got from this content-packed trailer. Some of the info here might be already familiar to those of you who have been on the map about the leaks that have been going around about this game, but for the sake of consistency I will go through everything here anyway. Also, naturally, spoilers and heavy speculation ahead. The trailer opens up with what I assume will be the opening cutscene of the game. Miyazaki having a thing for these female characters that will guide your way in these games, it is very safe to assume that this robed woman is filling that role this time. There is also a mount introduced in this cutscene, that seems to be the same one we see our main character riding in the trailer. Next we get some cool shots on some areas of the game, and this finally hammers home the fact that we are really dealing with a more open world type experience here in terms of world building than what we have seen in Souls games. These areas seem to be rather massive, and how From Software is going to handle the open world formula is, for me, personally, one of the most interesting things to see in this game. Open world games were a bit of a trend at one time, and still are to some extent. But this popular genre hasn't come without its pitfalls. Many developers tend to design their open worlds too big for their own good, often resulting to way too few points of interest and fall into heavy repetition in enemy, dungeon and environmental types. From Software, however, is known for their absolutely stellar, more confined level designs, so it will be interesting to see how they will tackle the challenges of this open world approach. Arguably, the greatest benefit of having your game to be set in an open world environment is the freedom the player can take on where they want to go next. The most hooking thing about open world games for me is the ability to pick a direction to go, to head there and find some small hidden locations I know many other players will probably find way later on their own playthroughs, or not at all. It makes my adventure in the game feel special, and I hope this sense of freedom and ability to tackle the game in the order I want is present in Elden Ring as well. After all, it wouldn't be too different from Dark Souls. On my first playthrough of Dark Souls, after arriving to Firelink Shrine, I first head to the catacombs and got destroyed by the skeletons there. Then I visited the New Londo ruins and got absolutely destroyed by the ghosts there. After all these mistakes were done, finally finding my way towards the Undead Burg. But I could still make those choices, and the game directed me towards the optimal solution smartly, with difficulty, while still giving me that fulfillment of exploration. I have already puzzled with some cool ideas years ago on my videos on how From Software open world game could work. Bandit Covenant stalking traveling players in a search for loot, villages that could act as a safe haven where you could trade, perhaps with other players. Dungeons designed with that From Software excellence, not to even mention the equipment and enemy variety. It really gets your imagination racing. From Software has a really good shot here to absolutely shit on many open world games in variety of different aspects, and I really hope we'll see that happening when this game comes out. The traveling in these huge areas in Elden Ring is solved with mounts that seem to be summonable instantly by the player. There will probably be some limitations on where you can summon your mount, but the way it is handled seems very snappy. Your mount can do some pretty impressive jumps, and mount combat seems to be almost a must in some fights we see here. Hopefully this becomes more of an option in the game rather than requirements. We see a bonfire in the trailer, so those are still in. Maybe they skipped on the portable bonfire mechanic that's supposed to be in Dark Souls 3 to add it in this game, where it makes more sense. My bet is that the bonfire warping we've seen in the earlier games is not going to be present in Elden Ring. This issue is now solved by your mount and brings back that sense of exploration from the first Dark Souls. And if the player is going to have the freedom to set camp anywhere, this diminishes the frustration of the long runs back to the boss that were an issue to many players about the bonfire placements in earlier games. Obviously, this bonfire amount has to be limited heavily, so the player cannot just poop bonfires everywhere, so it becomes a smart mechanic rather than an exploit. But if this mechanic does exist in the game, I will trust From Software to handle it well. The latter half of the trailer focuses on revealing a lot of enemy designs and combat. Obviously, the creature designs here are amazing and varied, this being one of the strongest aspects of From Software's earlier titles as well. Of course, we have some more common enemy types present like undead soldiers and human knights. We have this gigantic traveling island with legs, carrying some sort of a structure and ringing a huge bell with every step, almost as if the sheer stature of this thing wasn't impressive enough to let you know it's coming. These giants have been enslaved to pull the carriage of what is presumably some very important person, judging from the level of security escorting them. Perhaps it's an undead lord making their travel during the daytime from place A to place B. After all, the day-night cycle has been confirmed. Different types of body morphosis are heavily present in the enemy designs. Characters with way too many arms and characters who those arms were presumably stolen from. And of course this guy who spent one too many nights at the fishing hamlet. It's not a From Software game without dragons. This elite night enemy seems to be infected by some cursed barbed wire. The furry demographic has also been considered. We got Smo, but this time he shoots fire from his head because why not? And at the Hogwarts School of Bullshit and Wizardry, where mage players will no doubt get their homing soul mass that will carry them in PvP, we also get the weirdest helmet design in FromSoft history. And that's saying a lot. Flying magical deers, this guy who is very surprised you decided to give them a blowjob, Uppity Astrea with her bodyguard, this poor guy who is desperately searching through his calendar on how many days it is until January 21st of 2022, arm spiders, floating flamethrower head, beard dude, angels, and of course, pottery.
It is finally time!
We also had some extra enemy designs revealed in some of the screenshots of the game, which also look very cool. Like the absolutely hilarious Flail Andy here, who looks like he got his head stuck in a metal vase, but tried to play it cool and drilled some holes in it, and hoped no one would notice. Overall promising enemy design variety here, and it would seem like the game world has a couple of different themes these enemy designs follow. At least there is heavy insect theme with your spider and ant creatures, a beast theme with the wolfmen, and also some more grounded enemy designs like knights and queens that would fit their own place in the world. I also picked up on some slight giant theme here that could be one of the regions in the world as well. We also got some reveals about the combat mechanics in the trailer. The combat does have your basic Souls combat elements returning, like rolling, blocking and so on, but there were some interesting details here as well. Sneaking and jumping are a thing now. This will hopefully enrich the combat. At least sneaking should give way more incentive to play a stealth character, which was severely lacking in Souls games. But jumping is a question mark for me at the moment. I can come up with multiple ways this could become very annoying, especially in PvP. But I don't want to go too deep into that for now, since we know so little about this. After all, these jumps could be just tied to some attacks of certain weapons. Quickstep is also back in some form. We also saw that spells are not too different from Souls, since we already saw a spell that is really cool but will never hit anyone in PvP. We see our main character do a cool backflip attack here, what I assume is just the weapon art equivalent of this game. By the way, I really like this headpiece he's wearing. It also seems you can make your mount disappear while making a fast charge on your enemies, resulting in this cool looking entry into combat. Multiplayer elements are pretty much confirmed by this clip, unless this is a summoning spell, which could be exciting in other ways for at least the mage players. In terms of visuals, the game looks okay. Nothing mind-blowing in terms of visual fidelity here, but the art design is top-notch. There is a slight piss filter look returning from Dark Souls 3 in some areas, which I wasn't too big fan of, and I really hope they are more brave with their use of color this time around. I personally prefer the dark but somewhat colorful look of Dark Souls to 50 Shades of Grey that was Dark Souls 3. It's pretty noticeable that they will be using the same old game engine for this, and I spotted a lot of reused assets here from previous games, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just hope they will have a ton of new ideas on top of the old ones as well. That's it. How can one not be excited about this trailer? We got a metric shit ton of content to chew on here, and we only have roughly half a year of wait time left. The game will be released on 21st of January 2022 on old and current gen consoles and PC. At the time of its release, Elden Ring has been in development for 5 years or so, and judging from the development speed of From Software, I really hope this development time has gone into something that will turn out to be absolutely massive, and that not too much of the development time here were eaten away by some porting issues or other problems. After all, one of the best things about From Software trailers is that at first they seem to spoil a lot about what the game has to offer, but in the end, it's just a teeny tiny fraction of what the end product has in store for us. Thank you everyone for watching, and take care.